Alright guys, let's slowly get started. This is very exciting. It's an historic day today. It's new content. So this has never been taught before. You guys are the guinea pigs. So let's get straight into it. We're going to learn about MVVM. But before that, a little bit of announcements. So A4 final submission is due right before Thanksgiving break. Sorry about that, guys, but it is what it is. And remember, the Hack Challenge kickoff, which is mandatory for everyone, is tomorrow from 5 to 6. And reminder that team matching form was due yesterday. Everyone does have to do it, but if you haven't completed it, just please do it ASAP. Or we'll just random match you. Also, the kickoff is when we're going to announce team, kind of like soft launch teams, I guess. So brief recap on last lecture. Remember, we figured out how to navigate using NavStack and Navigation Link. And remember, this is iOS 16 plus. Before that, you have to use Navigation View. And we learned about property wrappers, which is going to be especially useful for this lecture. So value types, you have state, binding, and environment. And then reference type, you just like add an object after that. And remember, it has to conform to an observable object. And then side note is observation framework was introduced in iOS 17 to get rid of like these multiple different property wrappers, and instead just use add state and stuff like that. So if you were here for MVC, you'll remember this. So what is a software design pattern? It's a pattern which is a set of rules that govern the architecture that we follow when writing our code. So remember, it's a repeatable solution that you can use. There's tons of different ways to reach the same goal, but this is just like a repeatable solution you can use that's reliable. So here's like just a quick diagram of model view view model, MVVM. And so you have a model layer, and you have a view layer on the bottom, and in the middle, as like a middleman, is the view model. And as you can see, in the view model, you're going to have like the state of the view, and then the way that you get like the initial state is through the model. So you get the data from maybe like an API call, and then you store that in your state, and then that state propagates to the view. So you have this unidirectional data flow, is what we call this. And then we have user interactions. So say you like click a button, then that event is gonna trigger something in the view model, which will then maybe trigger something in the model, or maybe not, depending on the use case. And we'll go into more examples later. And so you'll be more familiar with this. It's pretty much the same. So you have data structures, API responses, and it's just no UI code. It's just pure data logic. So fetching, storing, computing. So think of it like your network manager. That's like in your model layer. Sorry, and you have views. So this is a pure UI layer. And here in this case, it would be Swift UI views. And it renders the view model's published properties. Remember, we talked about state objects having published properties. And when these published properties change, then it causes it to re-render the view. So it sends the user interactions to the view model. And there's no business logic beyond small formatting. So these views are like intended to be sort of dumb. So you just give it data and it's just displaying it. That also makes it very easy to test. And finally, the view model, which is implemented as classes. And this is like the middle layer between the view and the model. And so it exposes states and actions, and it transforms raw model into UI ready values. So there is some sort of mapping going on, depending on like how you're using it. And it handles side effects, so like networks, databases, all that. So your different data sources has to go through the view model, and then updates its states. So yeah, here you see it makes the views dumb. And in this sort of example, you have a view model class and you have a published property called name. And so like when this name changes, then maybe like in the view you have like a text view that shows the name. Then as it changes in the view model, it'll automatically re-render the new one if the name changes and stuff like that. And you have like network call logic stuff here too. And then so here I'll go over the event flow. So it goes from the view model to the model. And good thing to remember is that events flow up. And then so this is like a little concrete example. So imagine a user clicks an add to cart button. Then it notifies the view model through a function call to like add this item to the cart. And then so in this function, the view model calls another model function that actually adds the item to the cart, say in like the back end, right? And then you have the data flow. So it goes from the model view model to the view, and data flows down is the rule of thumb. So the model adds a new item to the user's cart, say in like the back end or whatnot, and then the view model receives a new cart from the model. So with that new cart, it updates the state. And think of if it's like a published property, then this will cause the view to recompose based on how it was updated, right? And we'll see this in the demo. That was pretty quick, but there's a lot of demo content, so it's good that we have some time left. All right, so as usual, go to the course website, and then this, and then clone it. I'm gonna clone it, and something you can do is do open dot, and then it's just gonna open your current directory, and then so it should be called demo-mvvm. Hopefully it works for everyone else. And then I'm gonna open this, of course, and then okay. So this is gonna be pretty similar. This is going off of the SwiftUI 1 demo, which is going to be, of course, the Birdwatch app, but specifically the list view. We're going to be building upon that. If the canvas will render. Okay, yeah. So we have this bird list, right? Right now there's no functionality. It just shows everything. And then if you see, in Bird, we're just using dummy data. Like here. So this should all look pretty similar, except for the star and the navigation title. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna create a view model. So this is gonna be pretty quick. I'm just gonna make the different layers as a new group. So remember the 3 layers. We have models, right? And I'll put this under here. And then the model we're going to use is bird, right? And it's the only model we have. And we're going to add another group. And this is going to be for our views. So let me put that over here. Of course, we only have 2 views, content view, which we're not really going to focus on since it just contains bird list view. So there's no like data to extract or anything. But whereas the bird list view, we do have data to extract since the list depends on the dummy data or like the list of birds. We're going to extract that into our own view model. So we're going to add another group called view models. Yep. Put that right under. And then we're going to create a new empty file. And then we're going to call it bird list view, and then just add model at the end. So bird list view model, boom. And then in this, we're going to first put all the boilerplate code in here. So class bird list view model. Actually, let me make this bigger too. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So, and of course, remember we have to conform it to observable object. So I'll press enter here, and then boom. And then, oh, it kind of auto-completed there, but can anyone take a stab at what we might want to make, what kind of published property we might want to make here? Oh, and before that, I forgot, import foundation. Okay. So what should we extract from the view? What is the data we're using currently? Anyone? Okay, so it's the dummy data. And the dummy data, remember, is the list of birds. So what we're going to do is create an add publish property called birds. And then we're going to give it the type bird. And then we're just going to use dummy data for now, since that's all we have. We'll get into networking after. And then here in the actual view, it's going to be a little different. Since we actually want to use the view model here, what we want to do is do add state object. View model, and then, let me just make this smaller. Okay, so then, yeah, it kind of auto-completes here, but it's going to be our birdless view model. We're going to initialize it here. And then we're going to use view model dot birds instead. And then we see it still works as intended. So I'm going to go to content view to just confirm that. So yeah, it still works just fine. Let me make this slightly bigger. So any questions so far, or does that seem pretty intuitive? So essentially what we're doing with view models is we're extracting the data and the logic associated with that data. All right. So that's it for view model part. Nice, quick and simple. And then after, we're going to go over favoriting, which we're going to do through the view model, right? So first of all, sorry, just a moment. We're going to need functions, right, to actually add stuff to favorite. And if you remember from our persistence lecture, we use user defaults, right? So functions, right? So we're gonna have two different functions called load favorites, and we're gonna have another one called toggle favorites. So toggle favorite. And then here, we're gonna pass in a bird, right? Because we want to favorite one bird at a time. And so let's do load favorites first. Remember, we first have to fetch our favorited birds. So favorites equals this very long thing, right? User defaults dot standard dot array. Then for key favorites. And then instead of doing this, remember, we'll do as string. So we want to cast it to a list of strings. And then what we want to do is we actually want to load, actually before that, right? In our bird, we actually have no way of determining if like a bird is favorited or not. So actually here we'll make another property. So we'll do var so is favorited bool, and then we'll have a default to false for now so that we don't get errors here. Yep. And then let's go back to this, and then this is where it sort of gets kind of complicated. So here we want to update the birds property. so that it re-renders the views, right? But how do we actually achieve that? So this is where it gets sort of more technical. So with this publish property, right? The way it notifies that there's a change is if the entire instance is changed, right? So we can't just like go to like a birds dot like first and then change that. That might actually cause it to not re-render. So what we want to do is set birds equal to birds, and then we're going to map through it. So we return like a changed instance of it. So we map through it. I remember this $0 thing just is a shorthand for like the current item we're iterating through. So we're going to do a copy of the current bird, which is this. And then if favorites dot contains, this is going to be pretty similar, right? Bird copy dot name. So if it contains the name, remember we're assuming that names are unique identifiers. So if it contains it, then the copy dot is favorited becomes true, right? And I guess another shorthand you can do is just do this and then just get rid of the if. Oh, but we'll just keep it. Okay, yeah. So we set that to true, and then what do? We return the copy of the bird. So if it is, if it is in the list of favorites, then we know it's favorited. So yeah, that's load favorites. And then let's actually do this now. So now that we have the new field, so this is another advantage of MVVM, is that even though our view model is not complete, we can actually make changes here to sort of prepare for it to have full functionality, basically. So here in the view, what we're going to do is, right now it's just defaults to star. So here we're going to have a ternary operator. So bird is favorited, question mark, sorry. So if the bird is favorited, right, what do we want to use? We want to use star.fill. If it's not favorited, we want an empty star, which is just star. So see, we don't even get errors. This all works fine, which is great. But say we actually want to load, or sorry, let's get to toggling now. So here, toggle favorites. We're going to do var favorites equals this whole thing. I'm just going to copy paste it. Boom. And then what we want to do is actually toggle it. So toggling logic. So this is what it means to extract the business logic from the view. So if favorites.contains bird name. So if it contains it, then it's favorited already. So favorites.remove all name equals bird name. So this is all the same code from our persistence lecture, mostly. And then remember, we have to do user defaults dot standard dot set value, and then we want to put in our mutated favorites here. Oh, actually before that, sorry. If it's not favorited, we want to include it, right? So we append the bird name. Okay, good. And then favorites. And then remember, the final step is update the bird's property. So yeah, let's copy this code And then we're gonna change it very slightly. So, boom. Sorry, give me a sec. So we're gonna do, if this dot name is bird name, right? We want to do this. Sorry, we want to make a copy of it, and then boom. Oops. And then what we want to do is toggle the favorites, right? Because that's what we're trying to do here. Oh, wait, sorry. Actually, no. I think this is fine. So yeah, we can just keep this. Okay. Right, yeah. Since we actually updated the user defaults here, sorry about that. We can just keep the same code here. And let's see, anything else? And then final step, of course, is to remember when we're initializing this birds list, we want to load the favorites. So one way to do that is do dot on appear. Let's see. And then here we call viewModel dot load favorites. So see, boom, we already see stuff here, but right now it's not toggleable. Oh, why is this not scrolling? Okay, so let's actually put in the toggling interaction. Make this a little smaller, and then we want to do it for each row. Right. So for each row, we're gonna do content shape, and this content shape thing is just for the actual hitbox of the row, so that like we don't, when we click on gaps, it doesn't like not toggle. So here we do on tap gesture, and then if we tap it, of course it's gonna run this code. So we do viewModel dot toggle favorite, and then of course the current bird, since we're actually in the iterator here, iterating closure. And if all went well, sorry. So toggle load favorites. So wait, let's try this. Oops, I think I made a mistake somewhere. Sorry about that, guys. Here, how about we do this? Here we do want to do it differently. That is my bad, guys. So if dot name is bird dot name, my copy is 0, and then do this and return it. Okay, so we actually want to keep the toggling logic here as well. So yeah, if we keep it like this, so if it is sorry, yeah, okay, so if it is the current bird, then we toggle it, otherwise we just leave it alone. Okay, so there we go. And then, and I believe it's because the reason why we need that is because user defaults doesn't update immediately, I believe. I remember I had this issue with another feature I was working on. So boom, we click it, it works perfectly fine. And then let's refresh it and see that it does persist. So that's great news. So it is working as intended. Oh, why did it do that? And so now we'll quickly move on to networking finally. I know this is a point of struggle for a lot of students. So let's quickly move on. And then, so this is going to be a little more dense. So let's try and get through this pretty quickly. So we have networking. Remember, this is going to be all the same as before. Make a new file, network manager, right? And then import amplifier, import foundation, and then I'll just speed run this real quick. So yeah, remember static let shared. This is the shared singleton, and have a private init, and just ignore this. And then we're gonna actually have our requests here. So we're gonna have a function called fetch birds. Remember this completion handler, where we take the, oh yeah, so this is where it gets kind of different. Here we actually want to use this result thing. So basically what this is it wraps the success case and the fail case. So if it succeeds, it's going to return a list of birds. If it fails, it's going to return an error. And this is just so that the model can communicate to the view model if an error happened. But ideally, this would happen by you throwing an error and then you catching it in the view model. But just for simplicity's sake, we're going to leave it like this. So then, actually, I should have included this, but it's going to be this Cornell appdev.com/API/members/bird-members. All right, for future, I'll have this copy pastable somewhere. Remember, this is standard stuff, JSON decoder, and then af.request. And what we do is use endpoint here, and then, method is a get method since we're getting the birds, and then validate, and then response decodable of, why did I do that? Bird list of birds.self, and then decoder of decoder. And then of course we need our closure here and our response in. And so yeah, I'm kind of speed running this, but we've done this before. So here, case.success, let birds. We're gonna do print successfully fetched birds.count birds, and then we're gonna hand it off to our completion handler here, which is gonna have dot success and then birds. And then, as you might be able to guess, we have another case dot failure, and then let error. Then in here we're gonna do, we're gonna do error in network manager dot fetch birds, and then we're gonna print our error dot localize description. And then here we actually want to pass in our error. So failure, error. So if it succeeds, we pass in a success and birds. And then of course, we go back to birds and then we make it codable. And so that's a brief refresher of the networking. And then, not much time, so I'll speed run this a little bit. We want, for better user interaction, or UI UX experience, we're gonna have different states. So we have our loaded state, right? When our data is actually loaded, we have our loading state, and then we have our error state. And then in here, we're going to package it with our error that we get. And then so for each state, we want to show different things, right? If it's loaded, we show the normal regular thing. If it's loading, then we show a loading screen. And if it errors, we want to actually know what errored. So we're just going to have another published property here called loading state. And then we'll default it to loading, since we can always assume that once we start up, we're going to be loading our data. Pretty standard stuff. Okay, and then finally, here we're going to mark this with our networking. So I have a sneaky suspicion we might go a little over, but hopefully you guys can bear with me. So here, when we're actually fetching the birds, what we want to do is reset the loading state to loading. So we're just defining behavior of the view, even though we can't really see it. And then we want to set birds to empty, since we're actually going to bring in more birds. So then here, it should be pretty familiar from here now on. So shared.fetchBird, and then the completion handler, right? So here we'll do weak self, and then sandwich between. We're going to have our fetched result, right? And then pretty standard protocol, let self equals self, else return, so that we don't have any memory leaks. And then dispatch queue dot main dot async. And then we're going to do a switch case on the fetch result as well. So case.success, let bird or fetch birds. So with these fetch birds, what are we going to do? We're going to set birds equal to our newly fetched birds. And of course, since we're done loading, we do self.loading state equals loaded. And then self dot, oh yeah, that comes later. But let's do this. And then, of course, it's yelling at us because we did not account for failure. We always have to account for if we fail or not. Oops. Not any error. Sorry, let error. And then, of course, self.loading state error. And then we're packaging our error so that we can send it to our view. So now that that's all set up, what we want to do here is actually change this. So here, now we don't want to load favorites first. We want to load our data first, right? So we fetch birds, right? And it's going to take a while. But once we do fetch it, hope. And okay, wait, sorry. Give me a second. Oh, that's the network manager. Fetch birds. Oh, right. Here, we don't want to use dummy data. Then another side note here is that after we loaded everything, we want to load the favorites, since we can't load the favorites if the birds, we don't fetch the birds first, right? So then we do self dot load favorites. Oops. Okay. Oh. Something's going on. Okay, so I think I probably messed up this endpoint link. Let me fix that real quick. So iOS https equals / iOS course backend cornell.appdev.com /API /members /bird -members. What's going on? For the sake of time, you know what? Let me just do git checkout 3-networking. Oh, oops, sorry about that. Oh, sorry, just a second. So in retrospect, I should have probably done a dry run of sorts before, but that is my bad. Okay, so this works. All right. So here, let me just comment this out. So here, this is sort of to the point where I got it before. So we actually load the birds in, right? So if we refresh it, right? It's empty first, it loads a little, and then it pops up, right? But that's sort of bad UI or UI UX. So what we're gonna do actually here is I extracted this to a main view. So let's get rid of this for now. First of all, we want to have this here dot refreshable, so that when we pull, we can actually refresh the data. So all we have to do is for this main list, do dot refreshable if this is loading, return. Otherwise, if it's not loading already, then you want to actually fetch the birds again. And then so here we have this main view navigation bird title, and then we want to actually overlay our other states. So here I defined other states here, private var loading view, some view, and then just make it a progress view with the text loading birds here. And then for the error view, we want to give it the description, which is a string. Remember, this is a function now. And then we return a vstack of 2 texts, error equals, and then description. And then, so what we want to do is we want to switch the viewModel.loading state case. So then when it's loaded, what do we want to overlay? Any guesses real quick? Oh, it auto-completed, but yeah, you want an empty view. It's because we don't want anything to block it. Oops. And then do case.loading. Of course, we do our loading view. And then, of course, with our case.error. And this is why we passed in the error through this, is so that we can use it for when we make our error view. So here, error description is error.localize description. All right. So then now it should be fetching your data. So then when you refresh it, it shows you this loading birds thing. And then you see the favorites load properly as well, since we call it after we fetch it. Let's speed run the next part, which is dark mode. This is going to be very, very quick. And this is going to use something different, right? Remember we talked about app storage? Here we actually get direct access to our user defaults. So to actually get sort of the value associated with a key, you do app storage, and then this, and then you give it your key right here. And then we'll make it a private var is, oops, I'm just gonna copy paste this. Oh, so it's dark mode enable, and of course this is gonna be a Boolean. And here you actually don't know if it's going to return anything or not, because if you didn't set it initially, then the value is just going to be nothing, right? But Swift already accounts for this. If you give it a default value here, then it's going to default to this if it finds nothing, which is very convenient for us, right? And then here, we're going to add this really complicated toolbar thing, but don't worry too much about it. So toolbar, and then toolbar item, and then we're going to do placement navigation bar trailing, right? So that puts a button right there, or toolbar item right there. And then we're going to make it a button. And then what is it going to do if we click it? It's going to toggle dark mode enabled. Is dark mode enabled, right? So it turns it on and off. And then for the actual label, what we want to do is do an H stack of image, system name. So if dark mode is enabled, what do we want to show? We're going to show moon.fill. Otherwise, we want to do sun.max.fill. And then we'll do a little text thing here. How about this? I'll just copy this. I'll change image to text and then get rid of this. And then here, if dark mode is enabled, then we say dark mode. If it's not, then we do light mode. Boom. Oh, why is this not capitalized? Okay. So you see it right here. If we click it, it does change, but we actually didn't change the theme. So a quick way to do this is do environment and then this dot color scheme. So then is dark mode enabled, then we do dot dark, otherwise we do dot light. So there, ideally you would put this higher up, maybe somewhere in the actual app, so that it reflects in all your subviews or all your child views when you're navigating between different views. But here you're going to see if we toggle this, it's going to go from dark mode to light mode. And we did this without using the view model. So this is another way, if you have something lightweight, something primitive like a Boolean, then this is just another way of using it. So that has been the demo. Any questions? I know that was pretty quick, but hopefully not. And so we'll move on to the Kahoot real quick. I know we're a little over. Sorry about that, guys. But hopefully you enjoyed this new content. It should help you if you're writing Swift UI. Anyone else need more time? Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Let's go. And also, if you just miss a Kahoot and you're still in lecture, just come up to me after. Whew. starting off pretty easily. It is a design pattern. Remember, it's a repeatable solution. We have 1,000. Someone was spamming true. All right. So yeah, this is something you can gloss over easily, but view models are indeed usually classes. And this is because they are reference types, and it makes them easier to pass into other views and stuff. So, here's the diagram I showed you. So yes, data flows down from the model to the view, and then events go from the view to the model. Yeah. Okay. This one's hard, and you guys should know this. I tricked someone. So yeah, tomorrow, Gates Geo1. Please be there. Attendance is 5% of your grade, by the way. But of course, for those who have an excuse, I have you marked down. And if you do need to let me know, then just let me know now. Yeah. So, actually, I don't know why it says so VIP. Okay. Top 3, claim your prize. And thank you for a great lecture, guys. Enjoy Thanksgiving break.
We have the thing tomorrow because my flight is actually like on Thursday, so I won't be able to make it pick up.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just make note of it.